How cool is that, you know?
I grew up on the big band jazz as well. My dad,
Oh,
he
oh my
had
God.
I mean, from the 40s up. And
Yeah.
then when smooth jazz came in, he swapped over to that. So that made me into that era. My dad has so many of those. We still got his albums. We still got.
Ah,
And
ah.
my brother wanted them, so he has them. He went and found him a record player so that he could play them. And
Well,
I love jazz. I like music with words sometimes.
mhm.
Most of the time it's just I hear songs that have great music. I don't even hear the words. I just hear the music because I
Mhm.
like the music. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you on that. And I used to listen to jazz at night in the summertime because it would be quiet. And
Hmm.
then I heard the pan flute, and I'm like, oh God, it was like it was so cool. So yeah, I feel you on that one. That and the bells, I like the bells. So that yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Anjie Williams, my guest today at Poets of the East. Anjie is a tremendously talented young lady, a poet of profound grace and eloquence. And also, in addition to that, she is a poet who makes a space for other poets to come and read their work, showing to me the utmost respect for the art of poetry. And she comes from a long line of very, very fine, noble poets. Among those who encouraged this fine woman is our brother Raul, who was a saint, a thoughtful, decent, good man, and a poet extraordinaire who produced his show. And he thought so much of Anjie that he said, Anjie, would you continue my tradition of doing this welcoming show? And this grand woman took it into her hands and she's done remarkable work. Anjie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. And yes, I miss Rod every day because it's always something I'm going, look, you left me and didn't tell me this. How do I do this? And I truly believe that his spirit is there because I'm always thinking, okay, now what will Rod do? How will Rod do this? Or Rod did this. Let me see if I can expand on this. Because when it came to the Zoom, I was supposed to learn how to do the Zoom the week after he passed because I was about to have surgery. I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "Look," because I was about to have my left hip replaced. I said, "Well, wait a minute. Let me focus on the surgery right now. Hold on. I can't focus because I was concerned because I knew I was going to be down. And then I was just about to go have my last pre-op when his sister inboxed me and told me, and I just sat there. I'm like, really? You can't go. He kept telling me though that he says, I'm not going to be here long. And I really need you to. I said, wow, why do you do that? I don't believe in putting negativity in the air. He says, you're not facing reality. I said, yes, I am. And so I went backward and forth. I would not, I said, I don't want to talk to you when you're like this. Just don't talk. Just wouldn't. I refuse to hear that. And so um, my cousin Artemis, um, she is a writer. I write. She's a writer. When I say a writer, she is a true writer. Um, there's no way I could meet her any kind of way. And so I said, look, I said, why don't you come be on the show with me? And so I had her, she did her poetry. And we were so encouraging, even my grandson was like 20 at the time, 21. And he told her, he said, you need to keep doing this because I like your poetry. And I think that's what really, really, really got her because a 21-year-old said, I like your poetry. And he's not into poetry. And so I kept encouraging her and I kept on. And so I wouldn't tell Wild I wanted her to join. I would just sit there and let him ponder what he wanted to do. And I might talk a little bit about the things she's done. And then he said, well, what about Artemis? I said, sure. And so I pulled her in and she's like, are you going to do this to me again? I said, what? You always do this to me. See, growing up, I was a little rebel child. She was a little, yeah, I was a
Well,
little
I can
rebel
see a
child.
vibrant spirit, that's for sure.
She was quiet and she wanted to play with dolls. I didn't want to play with dolls. I grew up well in the community in my neighborhood with nothing but boys. So I grew up a tomboy. And so she had 7 brothers, but she was a girly girl. And she said her brothers would tear up her dolls. So she wanted to come over and play with my dolls. So I'm like, I don't want to play with dolls. I hated dolls. I did.
More fun to play
Because
with people.
you see, back then, they thought the only thing the girl was supposed to do was get married, have babies. And I sat there and I went, nah, nah. Mm-mm. Especially since my mama used to tell me, she said, what goes around comes around. When you have children, they're going to be just like you. And I sat there and I'm like, oh no, I'm not ever having children, ever, ever, ever having children. Okay, you know, it didn't work out like that. I got 3. And yep, 2 of them are my nemesis.
Well,
Well,
they listen better than we hope sometimes.
yes. And so Artemis and I would play all the time, but Artemis was so smart, she got skipped in school. She went from first to the third.
Wow.
And I used to try to be like her. And she's always read, she's always wrote. So when I figured out I could write, I would write. And so, but neither one of us, that's funny, knew that the other one could write. Neither one of us, it was so many things that we're just alike in. Neither one of us, as kids, you don't talk about certain things. And when you grow up, you go your own little ways. And so when we came back online together, um, and we were talking, and it was just so funny. Everything that I was trying to do in my life, or I had done, she was trying to do. It was really cool. So when she came on the show with me, that helped me a lot because, I was really green. I was really nervous. And I was so thankful for you. You didn't understand. You kept me encouraged because I used to sit there some days and try to figure out how stupid do I look doing this? You know,
Not at
it was
all.
like I didn't used to tell me, she said, girl, she said, you don't act like you don't know what you're doing. I said, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost as I can be. But what I did do, what I've always done is I wrote a script. And I script from beginning to end, every little thing. If I said if I was going to say something, I would put a spot and put that person's name and what that they were supposed to respond. So I could go through the whole thing. And you would think by now I would have learned my script, and I have not learned the script. Probably know the script, but I don't. I keep it in front of me so that I won't get off task or get distracted or what have you. And so now I'm exploring ways to make the shows better. Um, he did Sunday at the Corner, which was always like at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I understood because he was doing other countries. So I wanted to go to church. So I decided, it's okay, we're gonna have to figure out a way to do other countries then so that I can go to church and other people. And he would have, it would be like 20 or 30 people to speak. And I'm like, why don't he tell them it's 30 people? I mean, it was okay for the 30 people, but he needed to put a cap on it and go 1 poem short because it was too many people behind him. And so I'm like, oh, we got to do something about this one.
Mhm.
But the part is, a lot of people thought once Rob passed that his stuff was not going on, which wasn't true. And so I was trying to, get out there and let everybody know. I know this sounds bad, but if I did a show and it wasn't but 8 people on there, I would be thankful because I didn't have to try to keep. It's harder to me to do a show with a lot of people on versus a smaller amount. I'm better when it's just a smaller amount. I can be personable because 9 times out of 10, the people that's on there are people I know. When people are on there that I'm not really familiar with, I'm not really sure how to do. See, you've been doing this for a long time, so you can just interact with anybody. I mean, I get it. I'm able to fall in, but I don't. When I do, it used to be when I did a show. When I got off the show, I would just lay there. I would be so exhausted. Then I call Iris. I said, are you exhausted? She said, man. And I don't know why the shows would make us so exhausted, but it would. The only time I'm exhausted now is if I have a guest that's a hard guest. You got to really work. You know, I didn't have an issue. You could just take it and run. I said, the mic is yours and you knew what to do with it. Some people you say the mic is yours and you have to keep just trying to fill in or just they're so nervous that they can what I've done, I said, look, I said, I can handle you. I said, I'm okay. This is what we're gonna do. Cut your camera off. And I had one that he just still was nervous. And so I said, no, I know what to do. He was shy. And so I said, tell you what, I know your camera's off, but you still see everybody looking at you. I said, everybody cut your camera off. So everybody cut their camera off. And so he just went for it. And so now, don't get me wrong, I love our older poets, but I want some new flavor. And that's what I'm looking for. Um, Older poets, a lot of them don't like spoken word. But if you listen to spoken word, it tells a story more so than our poems do. And a lot of those kids that's telling those stories, they've been through things that I haven't been through. And I'm 66 years old. Oh, okay. No, I'm 29. I'm sorry. Let's back up. I'm supposed to be 66, but I'm 29. Okay, let's back that up. And I want to hear their word. I want to put them in the spotlight. I don't want people to grow up and be like me. I was 62 before I found my voice. I had been writing poetry since the 80s, but I had no formal training, so I thought that I was not good. And I would write and write and write, but no, my mom and dad didn't even know I could write. They didn't. I was 33 years old when they found out I could write. And that was on a fluke. I wrote an editorial, and the editorial was about how um, we praise our girls, but we don't do anything with our boys. And if we didn't get our boys, we were going to lose our next generation. And it was on and on and on, and it was more like a call to action. And I sent it to the Birmingham News, never thinking it was going to get in the paper. And if it did, nobody reads the editorial anyway. I lied. It got in the paper. Everybody, including my doctor, read it. My mama read it.
Wonderful.
She said,
Wonderful.
did you submit something to the paper? I'm like, yeah. It's in the paper. And I mean, she was excited. And my daddy, he kind of like me. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. You know, he's proud. He doesn't really show a lot of emotion. And she told him, and he looked at it. He said, that's really good. And she came back. She said, your daddy says good. I said, I don't know. I ain't here. She said, you already know how that's going to go. And so I went in there. I said, you liked it, daddy? He said, yeah, I loved it. And that was, I mean, that was good for me. And after that, the gig was up. They knew I wrote. So I would write poems for them, birthdays, what have you. And my dad was sick. He had an aneurysm. And they went in to get fix it it was at the tip of his heart. And they didn't tie something off. And he was having internal bleeding and it shut his kidneys down.
Oh
So
no.
he was sick after that. And I think my dad had just kind of lost his way because he was not used to being sick. And so I was always that person that was always there and making sure everybody was okay. And I wrote poems for him. And
Uh,
so my mama told me one day, I didn't think my daddy paid any attention to the poems. I really didn't because he never said anything. And so one day my mama told me he had to go and have his stent fixed in his arm for his port. And so she said, the first thing your daddy told me to pack was your poems. I said, did he read them? He said, I don't think he did. He just every time he goes somewhere, he wants your poems. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, that kind of I just, well, okay, read them or not, he wanted them. So I was cool with that. So now everybody knows I write poems. And my mom, one year of Mother's Day, the gift that I had for her didn't come in time. And I was really hurt because I was so excited about that gift. And so I had written a poem to put in it. And so I called and I told her it didn't come in time. And I read the poem. I said, this is the poem I was going to put in it. My mama went, I don't care nothing about that poem, that gift. Bring me my poem. I'm like, what? And I'm saying, like, that kind of floored me there because she really didn't care. Right now, if I give her a gift, because one time I just gave her the gift and I was so excited. She said, that was a couple of years ago. She goes, where's my card? I'm like, what? Because I make handmade greeting cards and I put my poetry and stuff in it. That's how one of the ways I promote myself. I said, huh? I want my card. You didn't make me a card. And I was sitting there like, but I bought you a gift. I know, but I want my card. So I had to literally go write a poem and make a card for her. So
Good for
now
you. Good for you.
that's my mom, that's my rah-rah team. She's always been my rah-rah team. My daughter Amber, you might see Amber on the show. Amber's my rah-rah team. This past, what was it, Thursday. Remember I told you I had a thing to do. I was on the Harlem Renaissance show at Scary Bennett, and it was really good. It was really good. And me doing research for my poetry taught me a lot. And so I had already started a Black History. I'm doing a Black History book because
Good for
they're
you.
erasing. Well, they're erasing all the history out of the schools. You're
Well,
not
they'll
allowed.
lose. See, that's the only thing good about this. They're going to be friggin' proved to be the idiots and the heartless human beings that they are, and they will lose. There is no one who can
Right,
sanitize, who can make history pretty. We made a lot of mistakes. Human beings make a lot of mistakes. God
right.
bless you for doing that. Good for you.
So I decided, okay, and I've been going through, and when they first started doing that DEI thing, um, the internet started coming up and it was having different little Black history, and I would download as much as I could so that I could continue my poetry. It might take me a little year to do it, but I've got a good little bit done, and I wanted it because good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it is.
You have to know history to know where you're going.
And if you don't know history, you don't know how to not make the mistakes that was made before. The thing that I hated the most about history was it didn't tell the truth. A lot of history, it tells what they wanted to know. Because when you look at civil rights, they make it all Black doing it. No, that's not true. It was just as many whites in civil rights as it was Black. That's the reason they killed Bobby and John F.K. And nobody tells that.
No.
So in my poetry, I make sure I let them know who's done what. That's the way we got Tuskegee. It's whites gave Booker T. Washington the money to do it, and they don't tell that. And I don't think that's right because history is not supposed to be one-sided at
Right.
all.
It's about
And
humans, not about color.
right, and
Absolutely right.
nobody has told Trump that the Mexicans were here first. They were here first. We
Yeah,
came and
he's
took their land.
ignorant in so many ways. You can't even count the ways that the fan is ignorant. So yeah, history. My God, you know, you've just given me a whole new level of reason to respect your wonderful person. Oh my God, oh my God, Angie, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the poets that you help. Thank you for cultivating history. And the fact that you make a focus of helping young poets, I think that's fantastic.
I don't want them to grow up to be like me. I was 62 when I first did I first found my voice. I decided to join. I saw I worked at Tennessee State University, and so I happened to see an email come across. It was inviting you to come to this little poetry group. It was online, so I did. I did it with my camera off, and so everybody was reading. I said, well, can I read a poem? And so because my camera was off, I felt comfortable. And so I said, well, it's not as good as the one that just, and they stopped me cold. And with there is no such thing as a poem not being as good as, because everybody has their own style. So the poem I read, they were like, and you said you can write a poem. And so from that time on, I would read, but I always had my camera off. And so one of the kids asked me, said, why you don't think you can write? I said, because you are having creative writing classes. I've never had any type writing. I could just write. And so he says, you do know that makes you a natural, right? And I kind of sat there for a second. I went, I guess you got a point. Because I never thought about it like that. I didn't even know I could write till I was in the sixth grade. Um, we had to write a social studies story. And so she gave us these little ideas of what we could write about. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm riding home on the bus, and in my head, I'm thinking about what I want to do. I mean, in my head, I really had this little daydream going on. And so I gets home, I write what was that I was dreaming about. I let my mom read it. I goes. She didn't make any corrections. I don't know how many misspelled words was on there, but there was no, she made no corrections. And so when I took it to school, she told me, Miss Griffin looked at me, she said, you didn't write this. I said, yes, I did. I said, you can ask my mama. Wasn't nobody home but me and her, and she didn't write it. And so she said, I'm gonna tell you like this, sit here by my desk and you write another story. If you write it as good as this or better, you ain't gotta do no work. You got an A. If you don't, I don't care what you do, you flunk my class. And I just sat there and I looked at her and I'm like, Jesus, I ain't got no more words. Them was the only words I had. So not realizing that if I did it once, I could do it again. So I sat there, so God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I just sat there. But grew up in church, so that's when I figured out if I asked God to give me words, He give me words. I just sat there and I wrote. When I got through for the period was over. I had written the whole story and I gave it to her. And she says, you ain't got to do nothing else. She said, but you're going to write. As long as you in this school, you're going to write. And she told all the other teachers. So I always had specific writing, classes or assignments. And so then I started writing stories, plays. I never wrote poetry, never even tried because we were doing limericks. They told us that was poetry. That was as close to poetry as I had ever gotten. So I'm like, I can't write a limerick. Didn't make sense to me. So I said, Daddy, can you come up with something stupid and call it a limerick so I can get this grade? So he said, okay. So by me already them knowing that I can write, it didn't phase them about the limerick. So my daddy would come up with stupid stuff and make a limerick. That's the way I got through that because I couldn't do limericks. And so I never tried to write poetry until one day I was sitting there and I said, I was reading a poem by somebody and I kept thinking, I wonder if I could really do this. And so I used to love Helen Steiner Rice. Helen Steiner Rice for a long time was the only poet I knew about because that was my grandmother's favorite. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, and I was reading something about another poet, and then I said, I thought about Helen Steiner. I said, I wonder, could I do that? And when I wrote my first poem, which was God's Handiwork, I let one of my buddies read it. She said, so you gonna let anybody else read it? No. And so she let her husband read it. I said, y'all better not let nobody else read this, okay? And so I started writing poetry back then. I think I was like 20, 21. I started writing. I have written so much poetry, but I never shared it. I never shared it because I didn't know that you didn't have to have formal writing to be able to. So now I'm working on, sharpening my skills. My 9-year-old granddaughter, that's my mini me. Whatever I do, that's what she tries to do. When I wrote my first book, she was about 5. Gigi, I want to write a book. I said, okay. I said, we're going to get you to write a book. So what she would do was run around the house and folded the paper, stapled it together, and put chicken scratch on it, and said that was her book. So I would sit there and
Hey,
say,
it's
read your
better
book.
than some writers.
Yeah. She would say, so read your book to me. There's no way I was going to tell her I was going to read the book. I said, read your book to me. She would literally have a story. And I knew that she was going to be able to write. She had to have been about, I want to say maybe two. And she could sit up and write and tell stories to you. Because the first time she did it, me and my daughter, if my daughter and I had not known that this was not true, we would have believed it. She was sitting there. She said, Mama and they went to jail. I said, you mean Aisha and Jay? Because that was my oldest daughter and my oldest grandson. Now, if she had said that, we would have thought it was true. I said, you mean Aisha and Jay? No. Mama and they went to jail. I said, they went to jail. Yeah. I said, how long they stay in jail? Her mama sitting there looking at me, snickering, because we knew she would. And she went on and told the story. And every time I asked a question, she didn't hesitate. She had an answer. I said, well, who took him to jail? The white man took him to jail. And me and her really looked at each other because we trying to figure out what did she know about the white man. She says, the white man took him to jail. And we kept asking questions. She had an answer. So, well, who got him out to jail? The white man got him out to jail. I looked at her and I hugged her. I said, you're going to be a storyteller. And I told my daughter, I said, you better hope she don't tell that story to nobody else because they're going to swear you went to jail. Because it was, I mean, if we did not know that she was telling a story, we would have sworn because when you asked her a question, she did not hesitate. She didn't think. She had the answer right there. And so
Awesome. Awesome.
I, when we did her first book, I helped her. She said, I said, what you want your book to be about? I wanted it to be about a mermaid telling Bible stories to the animals in the sea. I said, okay.
Wow, cool.
Uh-huh. And her first story she did, she wanted to be Noah and the Ark. So we sat down, we did the stories, we went through them, and we talked about it. I designed her little cover and everything. And
Oh,
so
nice.
I printed them out, bound them real good, had some really nice paper. And she actually, I said, here, this is going to be your sample book. You take it to school and show it to your teachers. She sold several of her books. And one of the teachers kept telling us that when you write another one, let me know. And so now she then she goes, it's time for another book. What? She said, yeah. So this time she was doing Jonah and the whale. So her mama said, no, you gonna write that book. And she said, you can write. So your Gigi not gonna help you this time. She said she can design stuff, but she's not gonna help you. So, she's discovered Chat GPT, right? And
Oh
she
my
called
God.
no, she calls it Chatty Girl. She saw me doing something. She said, you got Chat GPT too. Mine is called Chatty Girl. Oh, she came in and she said, my mama done lost her mind. I ain't writing no book. I'm going to let Chatty Girl do it. And I was so tickled. I looked at her and went, no, you're going to write. So she said, okay, if I must. I said, you must. And so because she was on the show with Raw. Me and Raw, we showcased her. And she handled it. She was 6. If we didn't know that she was 6 and that was her first time, she was on it. She was answering the questions. So we decided then she had been here before. And so they asked her questions, and her aunt asked her, said, why did you want to write a book? She said, to make money. Good answer. She's always, I mean, she has an answer for everything.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
she's been learning poetry. And so she and I have our little conversations. I said, look, Gigi didn't go to school for poetry. She doesn't know anything about poetry. She said, but you can write. I said, yeah, I can just write. She said, okay. I said, well, you gonna teach me about poetry? Sure. And that was natural for her because she wants to be a teacher and she's serious about it. For the last 2 or 3 years, all she's asked for Christmas was something for her classroom. And
Wow.
yes, yeah, I
Wow.
mean, we bought her so much stuff for her classroom, and she literally teaches. She downloaded some stuff on her iPad, and she literally teaches. And guess who gets to be a pupil? Me and the dog. That's the smartest dog. I promise you,
I
that
understand the
dog won't
dog
talk like that.
copies your work.
That dog could sit there and won't move the whole time she's talking to him, and she's having a human conversation. The dog just
Oh
sits
yeah.
there, and I'm like, that dog gonna talk one day, and I'm gonna leave. I ain't never coming around y'all no more. So one day I told the dog, I said, Frappy, I said, I can't step across you. I said, you're going to have to move. I can't step. I'm just talking to the dog. It's a dog. I'm just talking to the dog. All of a sudden, he stood up, moved out the way. And when I walked through, he sat back down. I said, I ain't fooling with you no more. Something wrong with you. I wouldn't talk to the dog. I wouldn't fool with the dog. They was laughing at me. I said, no, that dog is too human for me. That was, and I told her, I said, you need to quit teaching that dog because he's going to turn into a human. She literally, she used to teach the dogs, but they had no interaction. The dog did. So she teaches the dog. And so she teaches me all about poetry. And she writes poetry. So she and I talking about we working on putting together a book called Gigi and Me so that we can do one together.
That's
And
wonderful.
she
That's
thinks that's
wonderful.
the coolest thing. And when I was telling her, I um I told her about the first time I did poetry in public. And I was 62, and I dumb me. I volunteered. She said, "Well, we need somebody." They were having this little event at the library, it was the East Library across from East High School, and they needed somebody to represent. And then nobody said, and I said, "Well, I'll go." And then I'm like, "Okay, God, why did I just open my mouth? That was not supposed to happen." And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know who said that, but that was not me. So I decided, I said, okay, I'm gonna go. And so I went, and my daughter Amber came, and Amari, which is the 9-year-old, her sister LeVay, and my daughter's boyfriend, they all came. They had congratulation balloons and everything. And I'm sitting there, but when I got there, I looked, and all of a sudden, the guy was talking to me. They got me. I was the only adult. Everybody else was in high school. They got me.
Wow.
I said, they're all dead. They're dead. They knew that I was going to be because they didn't want me to back out. I'm like, they're all dead. They gonna die. They got me up here. So he said, you're gonna be okay. I said, okay. They do spoken word. I don't do spoken word. I do old people poetry. He said, you'll be just fine. He said, you want to go first? I said, yes. I said, because I knew in my head, if I went first, everybody that came behind me, they was gonna have to step. So I introduced myself and everything. My poem was about when the Freedom Riders went to Anniston and how the Ku Klux met them. And so I had this little colorful poem that I had written. It wasn't really meant for me to do it there. I wrote it, and I thought it would be a good poem because it was kind of a little history poem. And at the end of every stanza, it was always no justice, no peace. And for somehow at the end, when I would pause, everybody figured out I was fixing to say, all I heard in the audience was no justice, no peace. I heard fingers pop. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. And when I got through, I mean, people clapped, they were videoing me, and all I said was, God, if you let me make it to my seat without passing out, I'll be good. And so after that, I was okay. I saw that I could do it. I saw that because I would always say this prayer: God, let my words be your words, and I know they'll be good and true. So I knew that whenever I read my poems, it was going to come across like it was supposed to. And so after that, I was okay. And when I got through, I looked and I realized there were whites in the audience. And I went, oh my God, I hope I didn't offend anybody. I'm from Birmingham. You would talk. You don't talk about racism. You don't talk about the Ku Klux. You don't talk about politics, and you don't talk religion. So those four things you'll get in trouble about. So when I did it, I was like, I hope I didn't offend anybody. And so I was kind of worried. This white man walked up to me and he went, "Thank you. We needed that. I really appreciate that poem." And I said, "Thank you." I said, "I was hoping I would." He said, "No, you can't offend when you tell the truth." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I was okay after that. And so I got my balloons. I mean, they didn't buy me just one balloon. They bought me a bunch. And they says, "Well, we were running late because we were looking for roses." So, but we didn't like the roses we saw. And I'm like, cool. And so my daughter's boyfriend says, "Send me the video." So I sent it to him. He sent passed my video around to everybody. Everybody saw my video. And I'm like, "Tonio, you passed my video around." "Yeah, why not?" I go, "Okay." If I needed to go and I didn't have a ride away because my husband was using the car, he would go, "Don't worry about it, I got you." I'm like, okay. I mean,
Awesome.
they always support me. I don't care what I do. Because the first time I did a solo at Scarrett Bennett, they were all there. And I had my little, I always do look, I had some cards I got from Dollar Tree. They had scripture on one side, and I would put my poetry on the other. And
Excellent.
I would give them out, and I ordered pens off of Amazon. But the guys, they look like tools. Some look like wrenches, some look like cars, and for the ladies, they look like lipstick. And so I would always give those out, and different little things pertaining to my poetry. Now, understand me, I have no clue as to what I'm doing. I'm guessing through the whole thing. I'm guessing. And so it turned out really great. I was really excited about that. The one Thursday, I was really excited because I wrote a poem called "When Harlem Learned to Swing," and I
Oh,
went
what a
through.
cool title.
Yeah, I went through the
Awesome
whole
title,
thing.
babe.
I went through the whole thing, and if I can find it, I'll read it. When I got through, I was like, I had prayed that I could do the history, in my head. I knew how I wanted it to go. Thing about the Renaissance, I knew about the Renaissance, but I didn't know about the Renaissance.
Sure.
And so when I got through doing my research, that let me know, okay, this is more stuff you got to put in your book. There's got to be a whole section in your book about this. And so I was telling them about it. And I was, when I got through reading, there was a professor there. And when he told me how much he enjoyed my poem, if I could have done backflips, I would have done backflips because that was it. You know, when you're new at something and you get people that's good at something give you a compliment, it works. That's why when I first started, you were always, "You can do this, you can do this," and I'm like, okay, if Rick say I can do this, I can do this, you know. And in my head, in my heart, I would always know that Raw was going, "You got this. You got this." Because I had written a poem. All of my poems that I write about um, people that have caught their wings, for some reason, it always comes out where that person is talking to me. And when I wrote the poem, it was Raw talking to me, telling me I would be okay. And he went through the little thing. And I'm like, and don't ask me why it comes out like that. It just does. And I wrote a poem when my dad died in 2004, and it was called "I'm Not Far Away." And it was my dad talking to me and everything. And I usually give that poem to people who've lost someone close. But it confused me because every time I gave it to someone, they would cry. And I would sit there and go, "No, that ain't what they're supposed to do." Everybody's has tried to explain that it's not a sad cry. So, yeah, but it's supposed to be a comfort. And they say it's the voice you're doing it in. It's that person that makes them remember. But see, for me, it was a comfort. And I thought that's what it would be for everybody else. And they kept going, "Yes, it's a comfort, but it's a different type comfort." I'm like, okay. So, and I would take the plates from Dollar Tree and I would mount the poem in there. I would sometimes I would put them on different things and decorate them up really, really nice with a picture of that person over it and stuff, and give it to them because everybody needs a piece of that person that they lost. So that's why I would do that. And that's how I've been doing everything. And for some reason, my poetry, a lot of it, I'm not gonna say all of it, a lot of it comes out um more of inspirational, I guess. Because when I read it, others go, it's inspirational. Just like, at the end of our show, we always write the poems for the poets. And I have seen the poets, guys, actually cry. And we're just sitting there, and I didn't, she says, that means it was good. I said, guys don't cry. It's like, you can see them or tearing up. And I'm sitting there like, okay, if you say so. Okay. And I wrote a couple of poems for her. She was really down that day. She didn't know I had wrote those poems. And she was trying to get her book to go through because I just wrote a book. It's called the True Value of Blood, and it's a murder suspense. And if you didn't know you were reading a book from a well-known author, I couldn't tell the difference. And I love mystery. If you can hold my attention, you're doing.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I reached the poem. The poem was basically about us growing up and how we, loved each other. And she goes, I heard sniffling. Sat there for a minute. I saw you crying. Yes, I said, bye. And I hung up. She called me back. She said, why you hang up? I said, why you crying? I said, that was not a sad poem. She says, no, but you just touched me so you feel that. I said, when you get yourself together, call me back.
Well,
Because,
poets can say things that some people can't find words for. And, your heart is such that can help people understand and release that thing they want to say. I'm afraid you still underestimate yourself. You are a powerful writer, my dear, and people gain joy and comfort from your work. Those tears are tears of happiness, really.
oh, thank you. Because, I got my daddy's blood in me all through and through. We don't do tears. If you see tears, it's two things. You really hurt or you really mad. And so that's the reason, tears are good for two things for me. That's happiness and sadness. And when I see you cry, it's like I'm trying to figure out because when I read it to you, it's for me, it's meant as a happy thing. But when you receive it and it doesn't come back like that, then I'm sitting there going, did I do something wrong? Okay, I'm working on that part, right? I'm working on understanding that because when
Just
I did,
let me
huh?
tell you one little thing. When my parents passed, I believe with my spiritual values that we should celebrate someone's life rather than mourn someone's life,
Yes,
mourn their death. And not everybody understands that. Some people are quite offended that you're not expressing great sadness because I think
yeah.
if you really believe in a spiritual life and you get a reward at the end of your life for doing good works, for being a good person, then it should be a happy thing when someone finishes their work here.
Mourning does not bring that person back. If I thought mourning would bring, I would mourn for my dad. I would still be mourning for my grandmother, and above all, I would still be mourning my son. I lost my son about 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, he was within, I think, a week of being 46. He had an asthma attack, and nobody was there but him. So nobody could get him the help he needed. He had the breathing treatment and stuff, but he just couldn't. He needed to go to the hospital, and he didn't make it. And we had been trying to get him for 2 or 3 days, and nobody could get in the house because of the dogs. And so finally, that Friday, I was determined. And when they did get in the house that night, God is good. He didn't let me get in the house that evening. He let somebody else get in the house. My son had already started breaking down. So, needless to say, I would not have been good after that. If I thought mourning would bring my son back, yeah, I would still be mourning. Mourning is only going to kill you. And there are so many other things and other people that depend on you. I got 2 girls and 6 grandkids and a mom. My mom is 94 going on 29. Trust me.
Wow,
There is
she sounds like a wonderful person.
she weigh all of maybe 100 soaking wet. And when on Sundays she put her little heels on, she don't wear old lady clothes. She put her little heels on and she good to go. So I split time, have my time up there, have my time down here so that she can keep her lot. But I don't want her here by herself because there's nobody really. My son's gone, so I don't have anybody here. But I have too many other people that depend on me. So I can't afford to do that. Um, the Bible tells us that the moment you take that last breath, your spirit leaves your body. Your spirit don't go on the ground with you. So, with that being said, I know that they're always there. And now, whether it's my imagination or not, there have been several. My grandmother only used one perfume. That was Estee Lauder Youth Dew, and she used the oil, and all her clothes had that smell in it. And I have been at work by myself down in the basement, and I could smell her come up behind me. And the very first time she just stopped, I'm like, now I know I don't, because it was too strong for me. It would mess with my sinuses. And I said, now I know I don't have no youth to on. I'm looking. And I could hear her asking me, why are you here by yourself? My grandmother, every evening, as long as I was down there in that basement, I would smell her perfume. And I would think, Lord, if she don't touch me, I'm good. Just let us back. I don't care about her being back there. Just don't let her touch me. She let her touch me, I'm gonna be wherever she is, because I'm gonna be dead. You know. I mean, my mom says she says she used to smell her all the time and didn't care where she moved that perfume in the house. She would always smell her behind her chair. I said, that's her coming to check on you. She said, I wish she wouldn't do that. But the difference being, when my dad died, I made them open the casket at the cemetery. I put, he liked Brute. I put a rose spray, had Brute all over it. I put it in the casket. I had designed his program, and I had put a poem in it. I told him, I said, here, in case you want something nice to look at and something good to smell, here, your flower. I said, I wrote you a poem and I designed your program. If you get bored, you can read it. Put it in there. I said, I'm not coming back to see you. This is your new home. I will not be back. So you need to come let me know you're okay. And I went on, not thinking anything about it. Did the same thing my grandmother. She liked youth do. And I spray youth do on her clothes. And I looked, my grandmother didn't like to be, she didn't believe in walking barefooted. So, okay, mind you, I didn't know how you bury people, right? And so I looked when we did view her to make sure she was okay. I looked, said she ain't got no shoes on. Mom said, you don't bury people with shoes on. That's the number one. When she come back, when the rapture comes, she ain't gonna want to walk around barefooted. I said, she don't like being barefooted. And for some reason, I had an extreme error. And I looked at my grandmother. I went, I didn't do it. Mama did it. Come get her. Don't come at me. I did not do it. I told her. My mama said, are you okay? No, you didn't put her shoes on. For some reason in my head, I was really terrified that she was going to come at me because she thought it was me. I was the prankster, okay? Let me explain that. I was the prankster. And see, the other side of it, when it came to her shoes, my grandmother, we didn't know what it was. She's OCD. And we knew that she was extremely neat. We didn't pay that no attention. That was cool. We knew she didn't like clutter. Not a problem. Her closet, she couldn't stand anything on the floor of her closet. She always made shoe bags. She made us shoe bags. And so when I got where I could wear her shoes, like I said, she was not an old lady. And I wear her shoes. And the first time I did it, I just put her shoes up on the edge of my bed. So when she asked for them, I give them to her. She said, I need my shoes. That's okay. Let me go get them nip under the bed. My grandmother she freaked, slap, stone out. And I'm sitting there like, what? She put my shoes up under that bed. Yeah. Just on them. I'm sitting there, you're gonna make my shoe. I mean, she flipped out. Then I went, hmm, okay. Every time she bought a pair of shoes I liked, I'd borrow them and put them under the bed.
You're a
I
rock.
had I had so many of her shoes. And so if it was a pair of shoes she really liked, we would I always ate dinner with her. I would go home and change clothes. She lived right behind us. I would just walk out the gate and walk up the alley to her house because I could see her house out my back door. And she would snatch them shoes, pull them shoes off. You ain't taking them home. She would make me go home barefooted. And so my mom was like, she saw a pair of shoes my grandmother had, and she liked. I still want to ask her for. She ain't got to ask her for it. She'll give them to you. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You live with her all your life and you don't know her quirks." She said, "No." I said, "Go get the shoe, borrow the shoes, and when you get through, put them under the edge of your bed." She said, "What does got to do with it?" I said, "Just do what I tell you. I promise you, you get to keep them shoes." I said, "How you think I got all them shoes I got?" I thought she gave them to her. She did. She didn't want to give them to me. She had no choice. I said, "Do what I tell you." She did it. And she got the shoes. She said, "You've been scamming my mama all them times." I said, "You scammed her. You got them shoes." And so that's the reason when I saw her with no shoes on, I freaked out because I'm like, oh, she gonna think I got her shoes. And so I'm like, oh, I wasn't for sure if she could come back, but I wanted her to understand in the event that you can. I didn't do it, I didn't do it. So uh I have so much faith in God that I'm at peace, with losing them. My son, I dreamed one day that I was at my old high school and walked out, my ride left me and I was standing there. And I looked up and there was something in front of me that was so light and so white and so bright. I couldn't look up. I had to look down. And I kept trying to figure out what it was. So I went to walk and then all of a sudden I felt my son's arms around me. I could hear him talking to me going, what's wrong? I said, nothing. Mommy, you can tell me. And that was just always his words. And I was looking down and said, why is his shoes so white? I can't see. And then he said, I'll take you home. We get in the car. All of a sudden, I could see my son. And I touched him. He was waving at his friends. And I'm like, why did they tell me my son was dead? This is my son. And when I woke up, I knew what time it was. I was good then. I knew what my son was. I was good then. And so um, I wrote, I've written a couple of poems, um, but I haven't written many because his loss, losing him was a different loss. It was a different loss. Maybe in time I can really write, but right now I just think about he loved my poetry, and I sent him my very first one that I did at the library, so he got to see me perform. So in my head and in my heart, whenever I perform, I know he's there and he's cheering me on. So that's how I deal with things. Um, but a lot of people think I'm cold hearted because I don't understand constantly going back to the cemetery. I told my mom, I said, why do you go to the cemetery? You cry all the way there. You cry all the way back. Well, he was a good man and I want him to have the flowers and everybody else. I said, do you talk to him when you're there? No, fool. I said, does he talk to you? No. Does he know you're there? No. Does he see the flowers? No. So why you doing it? I said, you're not doing that for him because he don't even know you're there. You doing that for you. I said, every time you go to that cemetery, you crying. Every time you come back, you crying. I said, when are you going to heal? You ain't never going to heal if you keep doing that. Because in my head, I was thinking she's driving me insane doing this. And so I said, look, I'm tired of you doing that. You crying now. I'll talk to you later. And I hung up the phone. Then I sat there. I was sitting there paralyzed because she had really worked my nerves. And I was sitting there paralyzed going, she gonna kill me. I'm dead. And I kept thinking she gonna reach through the phone and she's coming. And I'm just sitting there. That all of a sudden after an hour, I snatched the phone up. I called her. And when she answered the phone, before she could say even hello, I was explaining. She said, oh, you didn't do nothing wrong. She said, if you hadn't done it like you did, it wouldn't have sunk in. Said, but the way you did it, she said, I get it. So she doesn't go. She hadn't been to the cemetery in years. I told her, I mean, I understand you want. I said, long you they pay people to keep the grave clean, and you keep going. He doesn't know anything about it. I said, now if he start talking to you, hey, I don't know. You might be laying there next to him because I ain't coming. But she told me one day, I don't know, I was being my normal facetious self. I said, if daddy could come back, but you want him to come back? She said, yeah, if he could be like he used to be. She said, would you want him to come back? I said, once you hit that dirt, I don't want you back, period. In the conversation. She said, you would? No. I said, this is not Pet Cemetery. No. And she said, well, I guess you got a point. I said, Mama, once they're gone, you can. I don't know why I asked her that. I was doing something. I don't know why I asked her that. But
My dear,
she,
let me interrupt you for a second. I have to say, your your words, your thoughts, what you've told me has been so much better than any question I would ask. But I do want to ask two questions. Okay.
okay,
First, if a young person asked you, is poetry important enough to spend time on? What would you say to them?
I would tell them anytime you're telling your truth, it is important. When you put it on paper, that's your inner thoughts. It could manifest into a business or anything. Anytime you put it on paper, that's what's in your soul, and you'll come back to it over and over. And eventually, it might not resonate then, but when you come back, it'll resonate, and it'll have a totally different meaning. Poetry is always good, whether it's in verse or prose or spoken word. That's your truth. You always tell your truth.
Thank you. Next question. What makes a good poet?
Any poet is a good poet as long as they're telling their truth and it's coming from their soul. As long as they're not being belligerent or hurtful, they're telling their story, and nobody can tell your story like you can. So there's no such thing as a bad poet. There might be bad words, but they're not bad poets.
When back in the late 60s and early 70s, I was one of the anti-war poets against the Vietnam War. And I was pulled aside. Somebody said to me, you know, Richard, poets poets don't have to rhyme. All your poetry rhymes. And I said, that's true. And he said, well, don't you know that rhyming is considered passe? No important poet still rhymes. And I said, well, I'll tell you, if my muse gives me a rhyme, by gum, I'm going to use it. I don't ever argue with inspiration. It's too precious to me. And then, so that leads me to the final question, my dear. Do you have a question for me?
Nope. I mean, when I interviewed you, I think I asked you every question. The only thing I ever wanted to tell you ever since I had been knowing you was your hair was gorgeous. And so I looking through some of the flips, my YouTubes. I said, and I stopped on yours and I froze it. And I told my mom, I said, come here. I said, you want to see a pretty head of hair? Because she's always looking at people at guys, because men don't normally have pretty hair. And she's always looking, and we're looking at. She said, "Oh, he has a pretty head of hair." I said, "You want to see a pretty head of hair? Let me show you some." And she and I both love your hair. It is gorgeous.
Well, thank you so much. I take make I make no claim for it. It's just a matter of genetics and my brain's thoughts. Okay, now, my dear, after such a wonderful, wonderful introduction to your heart, your thoughts, your caring, your poetry, now I would going to ask you, would you read some of your poems, my dear?
Sure. The first one, I don't know. I'm in a silly mode today.
Good.
So,
Silly is good. I like silly. Silly's
silly
my
is
best
good.
friend.
Let me see. Here we go. The first one I'm going to read now. I was sitting in church, and the pastor was talking about your tongue can speak life and death. And he was coming from Proverbs 18:21. Well, the dark side of midnight came across my mind, and it went to a whole different version. This is what I came up with. It's called The Tongue and Me. Woke up one morning and the tongue was mad. Don't know why, but it was bad. Couldn't have been something that happened yesterday. Could have been a week ago or so. One thing for sure, the tongue was cutthroat, chainsaw, wood chipper mad. She started slicing with a double-edged sword. Slash right, slash left, hedge rolled everywhere, up here, around the corner. The house was destroyed. It is now a house divided, split in half and split some more. It was Humpty Dumpty broke. Tongue just looked and walked away. She knew there was nothing else she could say. There was nothing she could do. I asked her why. She simply said, I got out of control and lost my head. No, and when I did one of my I did the last review interview I did, so happened my minister was on there and I purposely told the story behind it and read it. And so he inboxed me and goes, at least I know you're listening. So let me see this one I wrote. I don't know, some people said it was sad. It wasn't sad to me. It was a fun poem. It's called Places. And it's about my dad, my grandmother, and my son. It's that where you used to sit glows with sadness. The chair cries from emptiness. Not just one chair cries out, but the chairs of youth and wisdom cries also. Dad, you caught your wings. You left us unable to sing. The chair at the table's head is bare. The chair that made the holidays special and rare. Dearest grandmother, I miss you. Oh, for the aroma of yeast rolls and desserts. The holidays are lonesome. The palate is abandoned. Without your chair, the aroma of desserts are deserted. When the sun rose, so did you. The sun that made the sun smile. Your bouncy spot at the table is still now. The places where you sat are lonesome now. But the years of memories still fill my heart and mind. The chairs are empty, but your spirits fill the room. Your spirits are forever ingrained in me. The spirits of memories past are still aglow. And to me, that was a fun poem because when I was writing, I was actually thinking about them, and the memories. That's what made me write it. The memories were really, really flowing, and so some said that's sad. It's just not sad. That's fun. You have to make fun out of everything, or you will never have fun at all.
Darling,
This,
could you move to your left just a little bit? I wanted to make sure we get that lovely face of yours and the heart that comes with it. Ah,
is
bless you. You are such a
this
joy. Please
is this
continue.
better?
Much better. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. This is the poem I wrote for Wall. It's called Yesterday. I know it's hard to say goodbye to yesterday, the talks and lessons learned. Yesterday is but a day in time that gives us memories. Hold all the memories of my teachings. Hold all the memories of our talks. Hold the memories of the laughter. Hold the memory when I told you that you can follow in my footsteps. Don't worry about me. My journey is not over. It's just paused on earth. God called me home to do work for him. I know you're heartbroken. Remember, God is a God of purpose. You may not understand now, but you will by and by. God will raise you up will graze you up on the wings of eagles. Your weeping may stay for the night, but I promise he will bring you joy in the morning. He has shown favor to me. I've lived the way he wanted. Our Father is keeping track of your hurt. He's collecting all of your tears in a bottle and recording them in his book. I'm always with you. Just remember, just listen to your heart. My spirit will always whisper to you. Always remember God's promise. He will turn barren places to fertile ones. Where your heart is broken, He will make it fertile. God will guide you through your new journey. He is close to your heart. My body has returned to the earth. My spirit is with you. See you later, grasshopper. And that's how all of
That's beautiful.
my memorials go. Is to you. Um, I don't know. That's just they just come out like that. When I started writing, I had no clue that I was going to write. But then
Absolutely.
this poem is called "Beauty by Design." I wrote this poem. My daughter Amber, um, she has her own shop. When she got her first shop, I wrote her a poem to hang up in it, and it's called "Beauty by Design." Annie Malone and Madam C.J. Walker, two women of great success and class. Their journey to fame and riches was rough, but their determination was up to snuff. Born of former slaves, both orphaned at a young age, they stepped out on faith and made the grade. Annie Malone's payroll company sold her hair care products that set her free. Her formula was a secret she did keep, and with it, she was making millions while she was asleep. The payroll beauty school made many new hair specialists. The best and brightest she did create. Madam C.J. Walker, her most successful protege. Madam C.J. Walker created a line of hair products. In demand they were. She too was a self-made millionaires, breaking barriers for Black women everywhere. Both women fought for what they believed. They inspired others to succeed. Their names will forever be remembered. Pioneers in the beauty industry, a true splendor, a legacy that will always shine. They did leave. They are a reminder to never give up even when the climb is tough. For with hard work, success is a plus. So let us raise our glasses to these two icons for their bravery and their beauty products. Anna Malone and Madam C.J. Walker, their names will forever be a talker. And I they don't really tell the story about Madam stole Anna Malone's. And she stole hers and started selling it, but then she eventually kind of piggybacked off of her stuff. So that's the reason I like to. That's one of my histories. And I wrote this poem. A friend of mine was having marital problems, and she asked me. She said, "What should I do?" She said, "I just don't know what to do." So I said, "I'm gonna tell you. Just let me think about it." So this is what I wrote her. I said, "To thine own self be thine own self be true, true enough to know when you have done all you can do. The to to thine own self be true, true enough to know that there's only one who can help you. To thine own self be true, true enough to take it to the mountain and leave it there." And she was a minister, and so I told her, I said, "Now I wrote this for you, because if you do what I told you was going to tell you to do, you're going to jail." I said, "So I decided I would spare you. You going to jail."
Very good.
This is my very first poem. And what made me write the poem when I wrote it was because I was thinking about the way I taught my kids about God. My daughter told me I thought in animation. That's the reason nobody could follow my thoughts. So I guess that's what it's called, God's handiwork. As summer leisurely dissipates, God's magical paintbrush comes to life. Leaves become passionate oranges, fiery reds, glowing yellows. The forest animals are gathering food and finding a napping place. Autumn's a mist. Old Man Winter's whip makes his presence known. The once beautiful adorned trees now stand naked. Their only cover is a blanket of beautiful snow. The animals are all safe and snug. God's smile keeps them warm. Through the frozen winter wonderland, beautiful evergreen trees show vibrant life. Animals can still find food. God's handiwork is amazing. After a long winter's nap, God gently awakens the forest animals. His warm breath breathes life back into a lifeless world. The noise of spring is here. The flowers bud with love. Birds sing their praise. The animals play with joy. They've all lived to see another spring, and God looks down lovingly on his handiwork. That was my very first poem.
Beautiful, dear. Absolutely beautiful.
Um, I wrote this poem. I just wrote
My
it for some
mind, beauty comes from the heart, and you have a beautiful, beautiful heart.
but thank you. I wrote this poem. No, it's kind of funny one. Um, I wrote this one for my grandkids. I have 6 grandkids, and they all have my personality in some shape, form, or fashion.
They are lucky kids.
And their mom's always going, "These are truly your grandkids." They're not. I mean, everything down to like the sit in the dark and watch TV. They go, "These are your grandkids." And the title of it is the color of courage is you. You stand tall, shoulders back, waiting for what comes your way. You show no fear. You stand tall, feet planted firm, waiting for all Satan has to throw your way. You show no fear. You stand tall, full coat of armor on, waiting for anything not of God, ready to strike because you know God's got you. You show no fear. That's what I wrote to my grandkids. And that one's in my book.
Beautiful.
Um,
Now, don't forget, you're going to send me the information of show me a picture of the book cover and where people can buy it. Okay. Not right now, when you get a chance. Okay.
okay. Um, my favorite One of my most favorite bird is the harpy eagle because the harpy he's massive, powerful, sure-footed, confident. The first time I saw a picture of a harpy, I thought it was an AI picture because it looks like a man. It was so big, it just looked like a man. And I'm like, that's AI. So I looked it up and it's real. And I fell in love with it because I like its sureness. And it's called The Flight of the Harpy. He stands majestically. He is massive. He's powerful. He loves to soar high in the sky. South America rainforest is one of his hangouts. He can see all from his perch. He spreads his 6 feet wings, fix his gaze. He sees his food in the sky, on the ground. He takes off like a jet, gliding higher and higher. He can ascend almost to the heavens. He's a bird of prey, ascending to heights with imagination, soaring 600 feet in the air, gliding, relaxing, and reserved. He is one with the wind, ascending higher, scouting for prey, talons poised, massive, yet agile. Watching their ascent into the sky, my imagination ascends with them. I love the harpy. I don't know. He's just a cool bird. It's like you can imagine him being a bird that, okay, I don't play with pigeons. I'm not one that play with pigeons. He's in a class all by himself, and I guess that's what I really, really liked about it. Okay, I have a vivid imagination. Okay,
Oh,
that's
absolutely. Believe me, which is both good
um
and bad.
for her 70th birthday, and I wrote it because if you looked at her, you wouldn't know she was 70, and I guess that's a genetic thing because none of them look like they aged. My grandmother, my mother, my great grandmother was 96 when she died. My grandmother was 97, and they didn't wrinkle up and look like their age. So I wrote this one for her. And it's called Glowing with Grace. With age comes wisdom and understanding. Even in your golden years, God is blessing you. Even when your hair turns gray, God is blessing you. He taught you from your youth. Now you are walking in grace. His faithfulness will never end. Be not afraid of aging, for God will sustain you even as you grow with grace. She's a AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha, that pink and green, two colors I can't stand together. They I just don't like them two together. I don't know why. And so I designed her a card with a beautiful AKA picture of a black woman. And I put that one on the inside. And she told me that was the best gift she had got. I'm like, there you go with that gift. Um, this one, my grandmother, uh, if you notice, I write about my grandmother. My grandmother, she was this person that she had so many sides to her. And even though she was uh, my grandmother, she just seemed like she understood life better than my mother. And my mother was young, but then my mother she never had to do anything. She worked a little while, yes, but she went from my grandmother's house to my dad's house. She hadn't worked since she was 8 months pregnant with me. So she didn't have the same outlook, but my grandmother did, and she did a whole lot of little cool stuff, and she would teach me a lot. We would Sunday, she would always teaching me about what happened with the family or who's related to whom, and that helped my history thing. So this is what I wrote about her. It's called Roots and Remedies. In the fertile ground where the sun lay, where the bees buzz and the butterflies dance. You always grew mint. It was your peace tea, the tea that made all our unrest become rest. While collards lay lazily next to rosemary, arms open wide, welcome the morning sun, soaking up the dew. Heavens, remembering our sorrows so we can forget. Sage is showing off its positive emotions. Each length of smoke erases the negative. Each curl of smoke around the room cleanses my soul. As I sit out back, looking over the garden that you built, sipping ginger, I think of all the roots of the past, of every root you planted. You gave us a legacy that cleanse, heal, and remind us. You left us great footprints to follow, and I'm stepping into them exactly as you left them.
Beautiful.
I am.
What a tribute. That's awesome. Awesome.
Um, I wrote a poem to the first poem I wrote to her. It is actually in a book, an anthology. She was pretty cool. Um, she you would think that she would be no nonsense because a lot of them back then. It wasn't. She really had a quirky side, and because I guess I was so close to her, whenever somebody needed her to do something, go ask your grandmama. No, I said she don't do that. No, you go ask your grandmama. My mama would push me up to ask my grandmama. So I said, what? She your mama. She said, yeah, but grandparents are always different with the grandchildren. Yes, true. It's very true. Um, this last one I wrote this for fun, and it's called A Creative Ascent. I was looking at a picture or something. It's called A Creative Ascent. As the sun rises within, I can feel my soul come alive. The walls in my head attempt to separate. The words fight each other to get out. With my eyes closed, my thoughts begin to elevate me. I can feel my body getting lighter and lighter. As the words begin swirling around in my head, my imagination takes flight. Through my mind's eye, I can feel me ascending. I can see the pink cherry blossoms as they hang over the babbling brook that runs into the beautiful waterfall. I'm ascending higher and higher. The words in my head begin to bubble. They start churning as my body ascends higher. As I soar, everything becomes clearer and clearer. I can see the beautiful meadows, all lush with wildflowers. My creative juices continue to move and whirl. As I continue to soar in my mind's eye, my journey gets better and better. I can see the waterways of Venice, the gondolas and water taxis. As I ascend higher and higher, I can see picturesque landscapes. Iceland is so relaxing. But as I ascend to the highest height, the aurora, the northern lights appear, beautiful, exquisite colors, the aurora, the aqua, the lavenders, the heavens dance with that with what looks like a star shower. My mind is so relaxed. My journey ends. My creative juice have overflowed with words landing on my page.
Oh,
That
that's
now,
exquisite. That
that
is
was
absolutely
the
exquisite.
poem. I had fun writing that because as I was writing, I was really using my imagination. I had
Yeah.
fun. So, how much?
I'm going
How
to
much?
send you one of mine that treats on that same idea
That's your
for
poems
your
are
later
always
amusement.
your poems, I don't care how serious you intend them to be, they're always funny. You can make serious stuff funny. And your dramatics to go with it. I just sit there, I'm like, if I was a little kid, he'd have to be my teacher. That's the only way I sit still in class. Okay,
Well,
how much
you,
time?
my dear, are a marvelous, amazing, wonderful poet. And I don't want you to ever, ever think anything less because you are amazing. Okay?
Thank you. How much time I got?
We got about 5 minutes.
I think I can do this one in 5 minutes. It's called, yeah, I know I can. It's called When Harlem Learned to Swing. I
Oh,
thought I
yeah.
would.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, the days of old. Lord, how sweet they did seem. The yoke of slavery fell from our necks, yet freedom still walked a long road off. The yoke of slavery was broken, but Jim Crow wrapped himself around our necks like a necktie on a Sunday suit. Our voices was hushed, our songs was swallowed, our dreams was swept aside. But by the heavy hand of envy, envious of the talent and skills the yoke of slavery gave us, howling through the midnight mist and shining like the north star, beckoned, saying, "Come on now, it's your time to shine." The exodus began. Jim Crow about mad now, mad in a wet hen, cause he ain't got us to hang no more. Like a phoenix bursting from the ashes, unscathed, unsinged, unharmed, reborn, restored, made whole, made Harlem. Every corner danced. Poetry flowed like the Hudson. Paint leapt across canvas. Stone learned to breathe beneath sculpture's hands. Jazz laughed. Swing testified. Opera soared. Beat stomped stories till sunrise kissed the rooftops. Then came the best of all times. Count Basie, the Duke, Miss Ella Fitzgerald, Lady Billie Holiday, Cab Calloway, old Satchmo himself, Louis Armstrong, Pearl Bailey, Lena Horne, Josephine Baker. Mercy me, they made Harlem sizzle. When them stage lights lit up the Cotton Club, the Apollo, electricity danced in the air. Hips swayed, heels tapped, trumpets cried, pianos last. Folks stayed out till the rooster near forgot to crow. Miss Ella and Cab, why they could scat so smooth, it sounds like angels learned every broken heart in the room. She didn't just sing the blues, she carried them. Lena, Josephine, Pearl, my gracious, them women sang the stars to sleep, could dance, could command a stage like queens wearing invisible crowns. Their waists were tight like a wasp, their grace unmatched, and every step they took declared to the world, we beautiful, we belong, we have arrived. Then there was 1461 S Street, the S Street Salon, Miss Georgia Douglas Johnson's place, where the creators went to roost, where minds gathered and ideas found a new home. W.E.B. Du Bois, Zora Neale Hurston, Effie Lee Newsom, County Cullen, Aaron Douglas, Austin Savage, Lord, they could have rewrote the world. There was creating going on in that house. Words found wings, brushes found color, dreams found permission. That was where Black intellect stepped out of the night and stood into the sunlight. That was the Harlem with fire in their souls. The yoke on their voices gave way to freedom, where at last freedom was bust a gusher in their voices and in their souls.
Oh,
I think
that
I
was
did that in
so
5 minutes.
beautiful. Thank you so much. That one poem was worth the whole thing. Thank you, my dear. My gosh, that was marvelous. Please send me that poem. I want to use it in the video, okay?
I will. I'll send it to you. You want me to dress it up or
Not
just send it
not
like
now. When times I just want to say, my dear, thank you so very, very, very much for coming and sharing some time with me. Anything you want to say to our poets, our poetry community?
the one thing I want to say more than anything is when you first start out, even if you don't tell a person that they're your mentor, you got to have a mentor. Rick, you're it. Because I've actually watched you and listened to you. Now, I can never make my poems funny like yours. That ain't gonna happen. That's just not it. I don't have the drama that you have, but you're always a person I can look at and watch your style and know that, okay, I'm okay. And you're always encouraging.
You're
So
awesome. And I don't
I,
ever hear you say anything less than that. My dear, you are one amazing human being and a marvelous, marvelous poet. Thank you. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for joining me.
Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, dear.